Helio. Let's do it this way around. Because I've just come back from shopping Thursday morning, or we'll do the shopping on Thursday morning. It's snowing outside, driving, a couple of handbrake turns, a bit naughty, but good. I was about to write a reply to Axion, who's just written a comment on yesterday's video, who says, I think that Sned's take is correct. Now, if Axion says Sned's take is correct, then I go, that's correct then. But reading on, there's something that's going jangle, jangle, jangle in my head, and I'm not quite understanding what it is. Providing advice to a stranger is bound to make the stranger defensive. All right, so I'm just thinking, well, who's mad enough to go providing advice to a stranger? And then I think what this must be about is what a lot of my videos are about, people giving advice on comment things in the newspaper or wherever. I imagine. Providing advice to a stranger is bound to make the stranger defensive. All right, you don't go up to somebody in the street and give them advice. Gosh, that hat doesn't go with that coat. I don't know. A high level of trust, stroke respect, stroke deference is needed to make it work. Advice to work also needs to be a little homely and perhaps not noticed as advice. And I'm going, all right, these guys say so, so it's obviously experience of the real world that I haven't got. Because I totally admit that my experience of the real world isn't exactly big. I have kept myself to myself more than quite a lot. So I imagine this is experience from them trying to give advice to strangers and it not working out very well. But is this what I was saying? Or can we link the two? I'll go back to what I said to Sned, that I think that the recipient of the advice needs to man up a bit more, be they man or woman. And this trust, respect, deference and all this shit, okay, yes, you've got to be a bit politic. But for fuck's sake, it looks like if you want to give somebody advice, you've got to tiptoe, tippity toe, wrap it up, put a ribbon on it, and slip it to them as though it wasn't what it is. And oh God, it sounds bloody awful. There's something wrong about this. There's something definitely wrong in here for me. There's something wrong. I totally appreciating that in the real world, this is how it must be. You can't, what it comes down to is you can't criticise anybody's way of doing anything. No, 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 is what you're saying. No, you can, but you've just got to be a bit careful. How far does this go? When somebody is really fucking up, not at work, but they're obviously fucking up their lives, or fucking up somebody else's life, or just fucking up. Do you have to be delicate? Or can you just tell them, look, you're being an absolute fuckwit here? And tell them why? Obviously not. If somebody's being, all right, take it to another big extreme. If politicians are being extremely stupid in what their government bloody thingies, can you say they're a bunch of absolute fucking fucknuts? Yes, you can. Well, if you can say it about politicians, it's because you're not saying it to their faces, is it? If you were saying it to a politician's face, would you have to wrap it up in a parcel because you don't really know them? Oh no, because that's business, is it? Politicians? Who isn't it business with? Your next door neighbour, you've got to live with them, you've got to be delicate. I can go with that. But are we talking about comments in me talking to you on YouTube? That's everybody. Or answering or doing replies in comments? Or are we talking general replies in the newspaper, The Guardian comments? Are we talking that? Are we saying you can't expect somebody to take your advice unless you wrap it up in a pretty parcel? What are we actually saying here? I can see that you don't provide advice to a stranger just like that. You've got to be a bit politic. But what I think I'm saying is, I think it's gone too bloody far. And the strangers should just man up a bit and say, oh, okay, well, that's what you think, right. And then don't get upset, don't get your panties in a pucker, and just think about the advice and go, well, yeah, maybe you've got a point. Or, no, I think you're wrong, I think I'll carry on the way I'm going. Why has it got to be such a big bloody... That's the question. Okay, let's make this practical. Why has it got to be such a bloody great big hoobie-doo when somebody gives you advice? No, not you, of course. You take advice. Everybody, you take advice. Why is it when other people are... You give them advice, why is it likely that they're going to blow their top? Why? Just tell me that. That's the question. Why? You know, you've got to be respect, deference, and trust, and all that stuff. Why? A bit, yeah, but why? Surely it's because the person that is expected to take the advice, throw it right over to the edge. They're a delicate flower. They haven't got balls. They haven't got what it takes to take criticism or accept advice. They are insecure. They're fundamentally insecure. Yeah? So what we're saying is the people that want to give advice have got to be really careful on their giving advice because the whole fucking world is so insecure. Why is the whole fucking world so insecure? There's the question. And are bad things happening because the people that would otherwise have given advice haven't given advice because they wouldn't want to upset the poor, insecure people that are doing probably bad things? Okay. Let's run down this. This was a quite a decent run of political comment in The Guardian on a Guardian article. It's a bit of reading, but I think it's worth it to point out, especially for the UK people, because it's about the UK, Corbyn and whatever. Corbyn with a K. Okay, so the article was whatever it was. The top comment is, a fascinating and inspiring tale. It's actually about a German town that takes over the running of windmills and electricity things and other things, and basically runs the town. Not as kind of as a co-op. They borrow money, pay the money back, and they do what the private enterprises either do or the government does, sort of thing. But they'd taken it in-house into their town or something. I didn't read the article. A fascinating and inspiring tale, and one that I wish we could emulate here in the United Kingdom. Once again, ordinary Germans in small towns and big cities up and down the country are working for each other collectively and not shrugging their shoulders or leaving it for someone else to do. And this is a quote out of the article. Yet to call for public ownership, as Jeremy Corbyn does today, is to face the molten wrath of the right-wing press, the trade lobbyists and the Conservative Party. It kind of makes you wonder who's actually running the country and for whose benefit, doesn't it? Without a question mark. Right. The second commenter, with lots of amounts of thumbs up, comes in behind that person and replies to him with, "The country is run in the interests of capital at the expense of labour." I don't think I'd go to a speech if he had to give a 1-hour speech on that subject. But still, the objective of all private enterprise is the accumulation of profit, and that is always achieved by taking more from society than it contributes. Profit. E.g., the workers are always paid less than the value which they produce for the company. The state, on the other hand, is not compelled to operate on a profit-seeking basis, and so can contribute more to society in the form of social supports than it takes back. That's deficit spending by the sound of it. Engaging the private sector to deliver essential utilities, public services, infrastructure, etc., means by definition that society loses out in aggregate, because money has to be taken off to give to the shareholders, presumably. G.R. Jones comes in and, for my mind, puts a bit of perspective on these things here for the UK people thinking of voting for Corbyn. There's public ownership and there is nationalisation. There is public ownership and there is nationalisation. The two are very different things. The example in the article is the former, public ownership, where local government has put together an independent company funded by loans and bonds in order to run a utility as if they were a private company, but with the profits redirected back into the public purse and the bondholders' pockets, obviously because they've borrowed the money. And a mission that focuses more on delivering local outcomes than maximising returns. That is very different from the kind of state-owned industries we had pre-Thatcher. This is nationalisation, which all too often were reliant on a subsidy and delivered a terrible service, seemingly run for the benefit of unionised workforce rather than the public and subject to constant interference from politicians. The worry about Corbyn is that what he wants is the latter, nationalisation, particularly illustrated by the fact that the former is perfectly doable, public ownership, under EU rules, which he identified in his recent speech as the main thing he wants to get rid of through Brexit. Forget about that, that just confuses matters. Towns and cities in the UK could, if they really wanted to get their arse together, do what the German town did. There's no rules against it. They can do it. I think there's a thing in the Guardian about a town that did it. It wasn't Rochdale, somewhere anyway, that has done it, taken more control. But you need the local leaders that are capable of that advanced thinking and running the company and redirecting the profits, and it's all got to be kept under control rigorously like private enterprise is. And it's very hard to find the public servants that are capable of doing that, because they've got to kind of appear from almost nowhere. You can say they're already sitting there doing what they do, but they're probably not the best people to go then and go, oof, we'll run this really efficiently for the town, because if they were that sort of person, they would have come up with this sort of idea and they'd be doing it. They're not, they're just sitting on their arses doing what they're doing. Right, okay. Going on a bit. What was this last one I wanted? Oh, I remember what this was, yeah. Okay, I thought this was quite funny. There's an article about some woman that got abused or something, raped or whatever, and so she's given up sex. I haven't read the article, but that seemed to be what it was about. And from the article, somebody has quoted, "But we are still submitting to the great fallacy of the American hippie movement that free love is about free love, not about men being able to get laid more. I just sat there and went, what? But we're still submitting to the great fallacy of the American hippie movement, that free love is about free love. And then she's kind of saying, no, it's about men trying to get laid more. Or was about, because it was the American hippie movement, was about men getting laid more. It just seems a maths problem to me. If you take all the words out of it and do it as a maths problem, and understand that it's very hard to get laid on your own, I don't quite know what she's talking about.